Pace is dropped on Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here. John here, you there. We are a little early. I do admit it. I mean, traditionally, we believe in Turner time. It's 9:05 traditionally, but when you're trying to grab folks as they're hitting the road because they have, big, massively important playoff games, and you want to catch up with a friend of the show and a friend of the network, you do exactly that. So we're going a little early this morning. I know it's 5 minutes early, but it's because this guy is in school and he's got to pack up and he's got to get folks ready for a road trip. And what we do now is we go to Towns County High School and catch up with a friend of the network, Clay Livingston. Clay, good morning.
How are you, sir?
Doing all right. Thank you for doing this. I know that you've got to get on buses in a couple hours and head toward Augusta for a playoff matchup. What's it like playing this time of year, deep in the playoffs again?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm willing to do this because we appreciate what you guys do. We appreciate the coverage. Our sport is growing, as you know, exponentially, and the kids are working hard at it, and it's nice for them to receive the accolades they deserve for all the hard work and time they put into it. So we really appreciate it. It's business as usual for us. That's pretty much all we've done the past few years is get on a bus and do a tour to Georgia, and we've been everywhere from Augusta to Statesboro to Columbus area, Hawkinsville, Monday. So we don't even have to GPS stuff anymore. We just go.
No doubt about that, because as you are chasing after a championship in Class A Division II, it is a road trip today to Aquinas to go catch up with the Fighting Irish. And when you look at your playoff run, had a home match against Trutland, then you had to travel to Dalton to take on Christian Heritage, and then you had to go to Hawkinsville. And I see your point about GPS and all of this stuff. I hope you're getting 58 cents a mile or something when it comes to all this stuff.
We've done pretty good the past few years. I'm not gonna lie. We've collected a little bit of money for all the travel, and of course we, take that and invest it right back into the girls. So that's been nice. The previous 3 years, 12 road games, 9-3 with 7 shutouts, 3 Final Fours, and a state championship game appearance in that span. And the mileage we've racked up is pretty amazing.
11-2 this year, 4-2 in region, and you look at the schedule. And what I like to do is when I look at schedules, I kind of break it down like the other football. And you hope that season 1, the non-region schedule, gets you ready for season 2, your region schedule, which you hope gets you ready for where you are right now in season 3. When you look at how season 1 and season 2 came together, how did they get you ready for season 3, you think?
Well, look, scheduling is tough because you have to schedule boys and girls for the most part. So, when we're looking at scheduling, we're trying to find – I'm not looking for wins. Our program's at a place where we don't have to go find just teams we can easily beat for confidence and things like that. We're trying to get better. And again, for us, we have taken into consideration boys and girls. We have taken into consideration travel. Our closest region opponent's 2.5 hours. So when you're scheduling, you want to stay close by, but there's a lot of programs around here that both boys and girls will not get a good match. I'm not looking to win 10-0. I certainly don't want to lose 10-0. I don't feel like either team gets anything out of that. So it's a tough deal. It really is. And we got a new boys coach this year. He's been great, but we had to get used to each other and what each of us are looking for and try to find common ground. And, it is what it is.
For someone who hasn't had the chance to see you play this year, when things are going well for your girls team, how would you best describe how things are out there philosophically on offense and defense?
Yeah, well, it looks a little different this year. The past 3 years, really, and last year we graduated 4 that were just phenomenal. Phenomenal players. So we're not quite as much a possession team this year. A little more through balls and sending it down. A little more. Some people call it boot ball. That's kind of a bad word in soccer, but we do what we got to do to possess and to create opportunities, and it does look a little different. And I'd be lying if I mean, I'm surprised a little bit at the success we've had with the players we keep losing year in and year out. But then again, I'm not surprised because our girls just seem to, the expectation is there amongst them. And I guess what they say about tradition is true. It never graduates.
What's it like to have that tradition and for a town like Hiawassee and for Towns County High School to have this tradition build and build and build, where now there is an expectation to make a deep playoff run, to get to that last game of the year? What's it like to have that?
Well, it's a blessing, obviously, but it's also, as a coach, especially somebody like me that worries all the time, how do you keep it going? What do I got to do to maintain that level of excellence and expectations? And I've been fortunate as a player and a coach to be a part of some great programs, a small part, but a part nonetheless, and try to take those lessons I learned when I was coaching at Cartersville with Frank Barden. When I played for Robert Davis at Warner Robins, even college, playing at Carson Newman for Ken Sparks and Mike Turner, you try to take those lessons that you learn from those guys and how they, maintain's kind of a bad word, and especially in the weight room. Like I run our strength program here. Maintain's not a good word. People are like, you're either getting stronger or you're not. You're either getting better or you're not. But to me, it's a relevant word. How do you maintain that level of expectation and excellence? And that's a whole nother discussion. But mostly it's our kids. I think most coaches would agree, when things are going well, we get way too much credit. And when things are going bad, we get way too much blame. Our kids expect to win. They want to win. They put the time and effort in the off season. We don't have club girls, but we provide opportunities. We do 7-on-7 tournaments in the summer. We do some indoor 3v3 in the winter, the girls that aren't playing basketball. So, they put the time and effort in, and they want to go out and basically, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, go get what's theirs.
Head coach Clay Livingston, Towns County girls getting ready to hit the road to take on Aquinas later today in Class A D2. So we are, I guess, a little in session, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. You mentioned some heavyweights there with Frank Barden and Coach Davis and Warner Robins, Ken Sparks at Carson Newman. What lessons did you learn from them that you've applied to your FUT-BOL coaching career? What lessons are you pulling from them and your time with them?
Well, first of all, it's about relationships. I mean, kids and players don't care unless they know you care. I have skin in the game. I have my youngest daughter on this team. I've had all three of my daughters come through this program with me. But all these kids are like my daughters. I mean, it's like a gigantic family. We look out for each other. So that's number one. Number two is, we are a family, and sometimes that love has got to be a little bit tough, and you got to be willing to do that. And it's not fun. I don't enjoy it. It's funny because right now I'm head coaching 3 sports: fast pitch and soccer, which I have a daughter involved in. And then I did wrestling this year because we didn't have a wrestling coach. And somebody asked me about the first week of wrestling practice. I said, it's pretty nice. I could kind of take the filter off a little bit and get after these kids. And because, boys respond differently than girls,
right,
to criticism and how you put forth that criticism. So again, it's all about relationships. Working for Frank Barden was amazing. 7 years, and he probably taught me more about being a husband and a father than anything else. But I certainly got a lot of lessons from him as far as coaching goes, and I just want to keep that. That's what coaching is: passing down those lessons, and I want to keep that kind of tradition going. That those kind of guys who have made an amazing mark on high school athletics. I don't want to be the one to not keep that going, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Penalties. When it comes to what happened against Hawkinsville, 100 minutes, nothing's resolved. You go to PKs. How unnerving is that for you? And I guess, what's your philosophy when it comes to penalties? Do you look in players' eyes and sit there and say, okay, I know that this individual's ready. I know that this individual might need to be fifth. When it comes to philosophy and PKs, how do you set that up?
Well, it's a pressure cooker. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I don't know. I've been in some big games, as a player and a coach, and I don't know that I've ever been more stressed than that. Last year against LOA in the semifinals, and then this past Monday. So this you'll probably get a giggle out of this. I started coaching soccer middle school. I think it was like 7 years ago. They didn't have anybody. Again, my daughters were involved, and I wanted to do whatever I could to help out. And we started doing PKs at the end of practice every day because, honestly, I ran out of stuff to do. I didn't know what I was doing anyway, and I was trying to learn. But I was like, hey, we got 15 minutes left. Let's do some PKs. And I started reading and watching videos and talking to guys. You know, I've been a strength coach for a long time and trained a lot of soccer teams. And so I would call guys from other schools that I worked at. And, you know, one thing I learned, this is just what I feel like. If you look at because even in the weight room, I look at the European model of doing things with sport, and then I look at our model, and it's a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go to Europe, you're going to have your more qualified coaches with your less qualified athletes. You know, you take out professional sports and that kind of thing. It's not about money. It's about developing athletes. So I say all that to say this. In Europe, it seems like they spend a lot more time in practice working on finishing and PKs, whereas in America, it seems like we're working a lot more on touch and possession, you know, a lot of rondos, things like that. And I get it because a lot of those kids in Europe, as soon as they can walk, they started kicking the ball. The touch is already there. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So for me, I started looking at like we need to spend more time finishing. We may not get a lot of opportunities, and we need to make the most of them. And then the other thing was I felt like if I let them do PKs almost every day at the end of practice, they would be more comfortable, more confident when it showed up in game time. And last year against LOA, I think it played out perfectly because they got a couple girls that play club ball. They're a little more skilled than us, and we just sat there and drilled them. I mean, we absolutely stepped up and drilled them. And I think it was that repetitive, you know, effort with it and the confidence, and it played out well for us Monday as well. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep doing PKs at the end of every practice. We're going to spend plenty of time on finishing, and hopefully, you know, that will be the difference.
What has film study been like in study hall getting ready for Aquinas today?
Man, they're tough. They do such a good job. Coach is great. Kids play hard. They're not just some little super skilled team that's not willing to be physical. I mean, let's be honest, the game, especially down here, is a little more physical than what you see in other places. You know, when I watch it on TV, I think a lot of that is some kids lack the skill and they make up for it with a little bit of physicality. You know, refs did a good job the other day of keeping it at an appropriate level. I thought we're going to play physical with them because that's really gives us a better chance. They're just tough, man. They just get after it. I mean, last year, you know, we kept answering them in the state championship game. They went up, we tied up. They go up, we tied up, and they just kept coming. And it ought to be a great game. It should be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. So I know that you got to pack things, you got to pack folks, you got to get on those Yellowhounds, and you got to head to Augusta as Towns County takes on Aquinas later today. Class A D2 girls on semifinal Thursday. Coach, as always, it's great to catch up with you. Glad we could do it before you were heading out the door. Be safe. Have a great match, and we'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Thanks for hanging out.
Yes, sir. Thanks again for everything you guys do.
All right, that's Clay Livingston. He's the head coach at Towns County for the Towns County Indians on the girls' side, and they are getting ready in Class A Division II. So I guess you could say that this was a bit of a Soccer's in Session pregame. And it is going to be rapid fire in the noon hour, just as a bit of a promotion, just to let you know. It looks like we're going to have a coach every 10 minutes. And on semifinal Thursday, that means it's going to be a lot of folks. So it looks like it's going to be visits from Columbus, Social Circle, West Forsyth. I'm trying to remember all of the ones in between, but I know that that's just the start off the top of my head. I'll have to look at it in the 11 o'clock hour. But Soccer's in Session live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente, for all that is you. Semifinal Thursday here in the GHSA playoffs, and we're going wall-to-wall with coaches, and we're going to catch up with a lot of them in the 12 o'clock hour. Going wall-to-wall from 12 to 1, catching up with folks. Judson Hamby from Oconee County, I think, is going to be also in that mix somewhere as well. So, yes, that is why we came on a little early, is because Clay had to get everything prepared, He had to make sure that all of the players were ready to go. He's got to get on a bus, and he's got to go from Hiawassee to Augusta. And so that's out of the mountains and down to Augusta to take on Aquinas, and that one is later today. But I wanted to catch up with Clay because of what he has been able to do and what Towns County has been able to do with that program over the last handful of seasons, and kind of once again introduce the state to the rest of the state. So that's what it's like for Clay. And when Clay drops the names that he drops from his history and what he was able to learn from when it comes to American football. Frank Barden is right now, he's at Christian Heritage. So that was a bit of an interesting, almost homecoming for Clay, because Frank is a longtime head coach in the state of Georgia and athletic director when it comes to high school football, Football. And his time was at Cartersville, where he was successful. Then he went to St. Francis and was successful there, taking them to a semifinal. Now he's at Christian Heritage as an assistant athletic director. So Clay got to learn from Frank Barden. And then, when you're in Middle Georgia, and you get to learn from a Hall of Famer like Robert Davis. Robert Davis, from his time at Warner Robins and at Westside Macon, building that program from scratch from a high school football on Friday nights. That's stout, Middle Georgia as well. And then Ken Sparks, who is a legend in college football on the Division II level with what he was able to build at Carson Newman. So you end up with three great sounding boards and places to learn from if you're Clay Livingston. And Clay has taken that and applied it to FUTBOL. And it's great to see the expectations now, what they are at Towns County every single season. And so they've got I think they're leaving at noon, stopping for a meal at 1:30 and getting to Aquinas later today. And I think they would have to play that one at Greenbrier. I don't think that Aquinas' stadium is completed yet. So you've got to go to a neutral venue. And I cannot wait to see what the crowd is like for this one with Towns County and everybody from Hiawassee heading to Augusta to take on Aquinas. Looking forward to that one. But it's great to catch up with Clay and get to continue to catch up with him and see what's going on with his program. Class A D2 girls, and very, very cool stuff there with Clay. So I guess that was a bit of a preview of Soccer's in Session. Soccer's in Session is going to be wall-to-wall live at noon Eastern here on the network. So good morning. Yeah, we had to start a little early because I had to grab him out of class. That was why we started a little early. Morning, Alex and Kevsi Calamarasas. It is a semifinal Thursday, so great to have all of you folks here with us. Reminder on the network tonight, it is going to be North Gwinnett and West Forsyth. Semifinal Thursday for us is in 7A on the right-hand side. North Gwinnett at West Forsyth, a little before 7 o'clock is when we're going to come on, 6:45. Maddie Cruz and myself and Jason will be there for that one. Then tomorrow, I guess I can go ahead and do this and let you know what it's going to be like tomorrow for us on the network. We have match day 34 all figured out. Took us a little bit of time after looking at matchups and things yesterday. So match day 34 has been decided here at the network. Our conversations with schools in the GHSA on semifinal Friday for the boys send us to River Ridge, North Atlanta, after their win over Johns Creek. Upset, not a major upset, but solid upset for North Atlanta. So North Atlanta at River Ridge. That is going to be match day 34 for us here on the network. And looking forward to that before we hand things over to the NFHS Network for the finals next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A couple of different sites, and it is Duluth, it is McEachern, and it is Mercer. So 3 sites for soccer, and it is that is next week on the NFHS Network. We have 2 more match days for ourselves. Match day 33 tonight at West Forsyth, North Gwinnett and West Forsyth on the girls' side. Match day 34 tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, and it is going to be North Atlanta and River Ridge. Maddie and I will have the call for that one from River Ridge, and we're going to have to be in 2 places at once tomorrow because Atlanta United 2 and NYCFC 2. They are going at it at the Fraction tomorrow night. So we will be in two places at once. When we have it orchestrated, we will let you know how we're going to be in two places at once tomorrow. So you will have two things to listen to for SDH tomorrow. Tonight, just the one, semifinal Thursday for the girls in 7A North Gwinnett at West Forsyth, a little before 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, you'll have semifinal boys, and you'll have Atlanta United 2 and NYCFC 2 from the Fraction. Caught up with Steve Cook yesterday, and our conversation will be a part of the pregame show with Jason. Jason will be at the Fraction. Maddie and I will be at River Ridge tomorrow to walk you through the end of the week, and then we'll get to see folks tailgating with Atlanta United, Minnesota United at Mercedes-Benz on Saturday night, and 92.9 the game of the Odyssey app, and we're going to catch up with Jason tomorrow morning at 10 after our friends from Beyond Goals mentoring. So the traffic today, once again, we're going to talk coaches. We're going to talk about what happened last night and talk about coaches in the grander scheme of things. So we're going to talk about that this morning and get you through today. Niko Moreno joining us at 10:30 Eastern time. We'll talk about juice boxes, talk about the week that was, and get you ready for what's going on there. Also on the board, once again, remember noon, Soccer's in Session live by courtesy of our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente for all that is you. That'll be on the network at noon, and it's going to be coaches basically every 10 minutes starting at 12:05. Getting you through semifinal Saturday. Molly McCarty is going to be joining us, I think, about 12:40. So we might have a collision of Molly McCarty and Heather Richardson from Jefferson and Social Circle, but I know that those are going to be apart. So let me see if I can remember it one more time. It's going to be Coach Flores from Columbus. It's going to be Jason Galt from West Forsyth. That gets us to 12:25. Judson Hamby from Oconee County. Molly McCarty from Jefferson. Heather Richardson from Social Circle. I think that's it. Yes, Kefsey, we will be discussing the Fighting Wilfried Nancy's. It's going to take up a little bit of time. That's going to be the next topic coming up here in just a little bit. We'll go over the stats and the numbers and everything that was associated with what happened last night. But that is the next 2.5 days here. Well, 3 days, really. 3 days here on the network. Busy today. Morning show, noon show. Action tonight, semifinal Thursday. Tomorrow, morning show, noon show. High school soccer and Atlanta United 2 tomorrow night. So busy couple of days here on the network, and we can't thank you guys enough for listening to us and being a part of the conversations as much as you are, so we can do stuff like this. So there you go. So breaking news, match day 34 has been decided. We know where we're going to be, and the answer is River Ridge. So once again, thanks for indulging the early start this morning so we could get in a little Soccer's in Session and catch up with Clay. It's a fantastic story about what they've been able to build there the last handful of seasons up there in River Ridge. I mean, it's Towns County. So Towns County at Aquinas. That's later today. We'll go over the schedule, and then we'll get you ready for Soccer's in Session, because I don't know if we're going to have the chance to get into brackets for a semifinal Thursday in the show, because we're going to have coaches every 10 minutes. So that's part of the discussion. So, all right. So Abby with a PSA involving the TIFO. My man wants a TIFO. I get him a TIFO. Sorry, that was not what Matthew McConaughey said in Tropic Thunder, but it was close. So Abby with a public service announcement. If you sit or stand in 135, 136, 101, 102, and 103, Abby is requesting that you be in your seat by the national anthem, because you're apparently all a part of the TIFO. My man wants a TIFO. We get him a TIFO. So Abby says, if your seat is in any of the supporter sections, please be at your seat by the national anthem. You're all participants in the TIFO. And Kefsey, it's been really cool over the last handful of seasons to expand our high school coverage and go to places that we have never had the chance to either go to or talk about. And I went through our initial sheet. And so this is a copy of the initial sheet that we had from our schedule. For those of you watching on the video side, Abby, we have 4 schedules, or at least I do. I'll tell you how I do it and coming up in a bit. So here's all the different places that we went to regular season. This does not include where we've been in the postseason, where we went to North Gwinnett, where we went to Perry, and where we're going to all of these different places. So here's a sample. River Ridge, Alexander, Douglas County, Johnson, Gainesville, Mill Creek, Perry, Lambert, Gilmer County, Ellijay. It's another place we hadn't been. Calhoun, it's another place we hadn't been. Gainesville, Bobby Grunfield at City Park for our game of the year, Johnson, Gainesville. Ridiculous. Parkview, McIntosh, North DeKalb Stadium on a couple of occasions. Dalton for Northwest Whitfield and Dalton. That was a great environment to go to Bill Chappell Stadium at Harmon Field. North Oconee, Brookwood, Villarica, Sequoia, Sonoraville, Winder Barrow, Johns Creek, North DeKalb Stadium again, Riverwood, Denmark, Stars Mill, Johnson, Gainesville, McIntosh, Decatur, and that got us into the playoffs. That's just us on location calling matches. But being able to do in session, and like I said, today it's going to be Columbus, West Forsyth, Social Circle, Jefferson, Oconee County. I mean, we're flying around doing all this, and it's what I always like to do when we are in the other football season, the Friday night FOOOTBALL season. I want to share the state with the rest of the state and let everybody know that the more you think we're different, the more really we are the same. And when you can catch up with a Clay Livingston who's building the program that he's building in Hiawassee, when we're catching up what's going on in places like Calhoun and Sonoraville and things like that. So, I mean, it's really cool to be able to do this and see how the game is growing on a bunch of different levels. Frankly, I'd like to be able to expand this regionally, where we're talking about stuff in Alabama and South Carolina and North Carolina and Tennessee and, all this. And I think that the weight is there. WEIGHT. We're talking about the WPSL. We're talking about USL Championship and League One and Major League Soccer and MLS Next Pro and high school and all these different levels and divisions and things, because that's what we wanted to do when we started this. It's fantastic that we're able to tell all these stories, and we can't thank you guys enough for letting us know about stories as we go. So, really cool stuff. No, and okay, so Abby says, I don't see how you guys have been keeping up with your schedules. All right, so I'll give you a couple of different versions. All right, so here is one of what I do during the week. This is notebook. And so this is the most base. This is like I do a 50-50 page on a notebook, guests, times, all that stuff. So that's one. Then I've got a Google Calendar. I access it last because I just use my phone for sending messages. This is the other part of it. There's the full thing for May, and that's just I've barely started writing things in for May. I should show you April, but April got recycled. But this is May. This is one calendar for May. I've got another calendar that's attached to the fridge, so the boss knows where I'm going to be, and so where I know where the boss is going to be. And so 4 separate calendars. That's how I keep it. I mean, Jason has his electronically. I think Maddie has hers electronically. Mine, I've got to write it down. I've got to have it in front of me so I can see what's going on. So 4 separate calendars. 3 of them are not electronic for me. I'm sure Jason and Maddie just have the one, and they can sort things out and sit there and look up Google and go, and they can figure it all out. Me, I've got to have it written down. Otherwise, I forget it or I forget to look for it. So 4 calendars for me. And I mean, David, I hope it's an education for BAM. Sometimes where we're drifting into high school and things like that. And the David, amazing the travel and coverage logged and how the coaches and the communities become part of the greater community. Absolutely. Like I said, I mean, Clay. You talk about a guy like Clay Livingston, who's been around the state, Middle Georgia, growing up, coached in a hotbed in Northwest Georgia. Now he's in the mountains in Northeast Georgia with his daughter, learning about soccer. And he's been a head coach and a successful head coach at Towns County, making it to the last games of the year. Same when we catch up with folks like, at Richmond Hill and places you wouldn't necessarily think, Thomasville over the last couple of seasons. All of these different pieces that fit together where it's like, oh, wow, they really are growing something. Hey, they're growing something too. And then maybe, like in Gilmer County, by the way, I can't thank the coach enough for this. This is tremendous. The Bobcat Football Club patch, I love that. And it just fell on the floor. But, all of these different communities that are an education for me. And it's great to see the game grow the way that it is. I mean, I'm used to seeing it grow Friday night football in the fall. For me to be able to see this, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday during winter and spring, I love it. The fact that we're getting to see the same kind of growth in non-traditional, and I'll just use air quotes, places. Ellijay, Hiawassee, I mean, all the above. Choice D. It's great. Hutch says it's my version of Zappa's Black Napkin. And Abby's got a real written calendar. See? Yes. We should all gather on 24th of May. We got 22 days sitting in the sand. Yes, absolutely. Load in on May 24th for the LA game on the 25th. And so Abby's setting up that flare. Okay, so that's Soccer's in Session. That's a bit of a preview for everything that is going to be happening today, all across the network next couple of days. So it's going to be all over the place next couple of days. So that's a preview of Soccer's in Session coming up at noon Eastern here on the network. Like I said, Niko's going to be joining us at 10:30 to discuss anything on his mind. Let's start with what happened last night in the CONCACAF Champions League Hemispheric Extravaganza. And I don't think, and legitimately, okay, show of hands, people. Showing hands. How many of you legitimately thought that Columbus was going to put the thumping that they did on Monterrey last night? Show of hands. My hand is only up for demonstration purposes. It is not up because of what I thought was going to happen. 3-1 at Monterrey last night. And obviously with schedule compression and playoffs and such, Monterrey had to hang on to some folks and do some late substitutions. Brandon Vasquez only ended up coming in, I want to say, within the last 30 minutes of the match when they were down by 2 in aggregate. And then Columbus ends up with the opportunity for a late addition on a PK, but Christian Ramirez's penalty shot was saved. But you look at what happened last night, and everyone is sitting there and going, all right, so Crew, one step away from it all. They're now going up against Pachuca in the final, knocking off Monterrey in Monterrey. 3-1 there, 5-2 on aggregate. And so you could have Sounders from 22. You had LAFC in the last match of the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza in 23. And you've got Columbus now in 24 taking on Pachuca. If they win, meaning Crew, they end up in the 2025 Club World Cup and the FIFA Intercontinental Cup. And you get some cash to go with it. So Monterrey struck first on an own goal, and everybody was like, oh, my God, here it comes. The field's going to tilt, and here comes Monterrey, and they're going to take over after Chaberco had the OG in the 11th minute. Not so fast, my friend. Like I said, I wish I had a number 2 Ticonderoga pencil. But then you end up with Aiden Morris. Final kick of the first half, Aiden Morris on an awful giveaway from Esteban Andrada. Awful. It was an awful idea. Horrendous. Oh, my God, horrendous. That's how horrendous it was. Andrada, all he had to do was chill. Legitimately, all he had to do was sit. Andrada, all he had to do was just chill, let the half finish. You're in good shape. And he did. Kefsey, he did. Kefsey says he had a long time to think about it, too. He did. He's at the top of the box. He walks up to it, and he's kind of looking. He looks to his left, looks to his right, kind of thinking about it a little bit, takes a couple of steps right to the edge of the 18. And then for some reason, Andrada thinks that an outlet rollout to his right. Not an overhand throw, but a rollout. Not one of these, one of these. Andrada thought that a rollout to a teammate to start the attack in transition was the play. It was not the play. Aiden Morris comes in from behind, steals the ball, puts it in the back of the net at 45+4, where Monterrey already had made a substitution and burned a window because of an injury. 45+4, Andrada rolls it out, doesn't have enough MPH on it. Morris picks it off and puts it in the back of the net. You're tied at 1, and everything's back on all over again. Diego Rossi scores at 49. That meant 4-2 on aggregate. Jason Russell Rowe. If you had Jason Russell Rowe scoring, I want to know lottery numbers. 5-time Triple C winners? Nope. Not happening. First ever Triple C final. Legitimately. Shaberko on an OG, then it's Morris, Rossi, Russell Rowe, and it almost was Christian Ramirez. First MLS team to beat Monterrey in a 2-leg series. 7th MLS side to reach the Triple C final in the modern era. And I think this is the first time that an MLS side has beaten 2 Liga MX teams on the way to a championship game. You beat Tigres, you beat Monterrey. You beat Tigres and Monterrey. That's ridiculous. Crew also became the first MLS club in Triple C history / CCL history, considering that the Triple C's history is very small, to advance without suffering a defeat in the second legs on the road. You're playing second legs on the road at Tigres, at Monterrey, and you don't lose either one. You don't lose either one of those. And you're playing Pachuca in the final for the Triple C. I'm going to check something real quick. I want to see if we have anything resembling juice boxes for this one already. And I want to see what the level of respect / disrespect might be. Let me see if we have it here. Do we have anything resembling North and or Central America? North America, Central America, no. Okay, so we don't have early juice boxes posted for this one yet. When it happens, I can't wait to see what they are. Cannot wait to see what they are involving this club. So my question is several-fold here when it comes to Columbus and Monterrey. Specifically in and around Wilfried Nancy. What in the blue ever-lovin'-ish is Joey Saputo thinking now? We have mentioned in our conversations here about Wilfried Nancy since his time started in Monterrey when he took over. Wilfried Nancy worked his way up through the Montreal system, took over, and you end up with it being the way that it is right now. What is Joey Saputo thinking? I wonder if I wonder if Joey is even having any kind of second thought, anything about letting Wilfried Nancy go. Frankly, knowing him, I don't think he is. I don't think he is. He wasn't good for me at the time I let him go. I mean, and I don't think that you can, if any of us have any egos attached to anything, it's like he wasn't doing anything for me when he was in Montreal. I let him go. It was the best thing for him. June 2nd, by the way, is the final. He needed, we needed a separation. And yes, Michael and Alex, anytime that I can get an old Rush reference in the show, I will take it. I will take it and run. They've reissued the band has started reissuing old concert tour T-shirts, by the way. Yes, Hutch, I did him a favor. That is exactly what we're talking about here. I did Wilfried Nancy a favor. Any coach that goes through anything attached to Joey Saputo, I did them a favor. It wasn't working here. I did what I thought was best for that individual and the club. I turned him into that individual by letting him go. But just think, although, we all know about how Joey Saputo drives people crazy. If it hadn't happened, I mean, how long would it have taken before it really would happen? And would there have been any kind of carryover whatsoever with Wilfried Nancy and Joey Saputo? How much longer would that relationship have gone on just on general premise? Because you know that there's going to be a point like George Steinbrenner and Billy Martin. It's going to be one of those where you're just going to be bashing heads, and it's just going to be like, I quit. You're fired. Okay, I'm out. One of those. But how long? And now that Wilfried Nancy is in Columbus, doing what he's doing in Columbus, and not doing it in Montreal or a part of the Joey Saputo system, I wonder if in some corner in a multi-lighted bathroom in a corner office someplace, if Joey Saputo isn't trashing every piece of furniture known to mankind. Or, as we say, like Hutch, I did him a favor. I wonder. I really do. But we have said since his time in Montreal how good a coach Wilfried Nancy is. That he, frankly, early on in his career, I think was underappreciated and or disrespected as a coach in Major League Soccer. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily believe in a formation. It's like play the game that's in front of you. If it happens to be a construct, it's just like formations, and we talk about this too. Formations are a loose construct. You have a base of an idea as to how you want to operate, but you don't want to take the freedom away from your players in situations. If it just so happens that you have an individual that's got some space, take it. It's right there in front of you. If it's there for you, it's there for you. Don't worry about sticking where you are as a player. Left back does not mean left back. Does not mean left out either. Doesn't mean any of that. If a center back sees an opportunity to run forward and engage in a play, jump into it. Don't worry about it. The players around you know their responsibility, and they know how things are going to how if you go forward, who's going to fill in from behind? It's that Borg-like idea of, okay, if one piece goes forward, somebody else comes in from behind. And if it happens to be a fellow midfielder or a forward dropping back, that's the way it is. Play the game that's in front of you. Don't stick to a formation. And that's why when we do broadcasts, specifically here on the network, we always want to sit there and say that, yes, they're going to line up in this formation, but don't hold them to it. Because as soon as that ball is kicked, the game takes on a different footprint. And Wilfried Nancy is far, he is one of those guys that is quite malleable and adaptable to what's going on. He understands what his players can and can't do. He understands that if somebody wants to jump into a play, let them jump into a play. I'm not going to hold them to being a defensive individual, over 100% of a match. If the chance is there and you got it, and I know that you have the ability, and I trust your ability, go ahead and jump into the play and start things. If you're a center back, if you're a wing back, and you've got to do, if you feel like an underlapping run is necessary to help continue to move the play forward and take it to that next step in the attacking third. If it's an underlapping run, great. If it's an overlapping run, fantastic. If it's the inside, if it's the outside, do what you think is what you need to do to help create advantages. And we have said, like I said, since Montreal, we have said Wilfried Nancy better be in the discussion for Coach of the Year every single blanking year that you have this discussion. Completely and totally disrespected at times from what he has been able to build in Montreal and work on in Columbus. And it took, in some circles, an MLS Cup for him to be recognized. So you have somebody like a Wilfried Nancy, and it is, look, he's the man right now. And I think that he can, as he continues to build and grow, I wonder, if the door was to be opened overseas, would he take it? Or would he continue to build what he's building in Major League Soccer? Just a thought. But Wilfried Nancy is the man. And you're seeing what he is doing on a daily basis there with Columbus. And it just so happened that last night, Columbus Crew knocks off another Liga MX side on their way to playing for a CONCACAF Champions Cup Triple C Hemispheric Extravaganza title, which could put them in the Club World Cup. And some folks were going, well, these teams aren't going to be in the Club World Cup because of what Columbus is doing. Yeah, well, that's on you for not doing what Columbus is doing. You're not winning as much. That's on you. Waiting on numbers and percentages and winning percentage and things like that. That's on you. Don't focus on what others aren't doing. Focus on what you aren't doing. They don't need to help you out by losing. But you could have the Club World Cup in 25, and the Columbus Crew, if they beat Pachuca, they could be in it. Good on them. And what it also says is that, once again, to be successful in Major League Soccer, you don't have to throw money at the problem. Some folks do, and we talk about them, thinking that, yeah, that's the way to go about it. Yeah, you throw money at a problem, you bring in all these high-priced talents. What's it get you? It got you Leagues Cup. But it's, but right now with Columbus isn't breaking the bank. Just to give you salary figures, I want to get the salary figures for the Crew, and this is the 23 players. This is from the MLSplayers.org. And I'm not going to go through every single salary, but this is last year's as of September 15 of 2023. Let's take a peek at the salaries from our friends in Columbus. This was last year's bunch. Obviously, we'll know this year's bunch a little later this year. Cucho at 2.6. Nagbe at 1.8. Diego Rossi at 2.6, 2.625. So you had 3 players coming into this season making north of $1 million. Three making north of 7 figures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You had 10 players, 11, 12, 13 players. So 16 of your 30 were making either 6 figures or 7 last season's group. We know what last season's group did. So it's about balance, it's about philosophy, and it's about understanding what's going on. Last season, to give you an idea, Sean Zawatsky, Patrick Schulte, Jason Russell Rowe. I'm checking other dudes here. Hang on just a second. Mo Farsi, before his contract was looked at again. All of those folks were making less than $100,000 a year. They were either making $67,360 or they were making $88,200. Rookie men, veteran men. So, yes, you had 16 players making 6 figures or more, but you also had key contributors like Schulte and Zawatsky who were making league men, and Mo Farsi. Farsi took over for Julian Gressel in the playoffs, and that was a far better substitution that you could have done otherwise. So it's about what Wilfried Nancy was bringing to the table this entire time. Players that fit the idea of what he wants philosophically, and taking those players and that philosophy and applying it to what's going on the field. And Joey Saputo, on some level, is probably kicking himself. At least he should be. We mentioned what's going on with teams that are succeeding. Numbers came out yesterday on folks that are not. And for that, we go to Nashville. And the numbers came out on Gary Smith and Nashville and what has been happening there, say, over the last year. Not even the last year. Basically, the last 10 months. So our friends at Backheeled we're looking at. So Backheeled was doing a deep dive. And Nashville was the team that they had the fancy little graphic on. Here's what's been going on in Nashville by comparison over the last 10 months, 10 calendar months. July 1st, 23 through the end of that season and what we've seen so far this year. Nashville, one of the worst teams in Major League Soccer, according to American Soccer Analysts analysis, in these categories. Less than 1 point per match, 1.24 expected points per match, 0.87 goals scored per match, minus 0.52 goal difference per match, 1.12 XG per match, 10.74 shots taken per match. So where does that put you? And a lot of folks are saying it's not just the last 10 months, it's been 3 years. 0.96 points per game in the last 10 months puts them 27th out of 29. Expected points per game, 24th. Goals scored per match, next to last. Goal difference in the negative, 25th. 1.12 XG, 26th. And along those same lines, the shots taken per match puts you in 25th. That is where starting before Leagues Cup last season to now, that's what we're seeing with Nashville. We do talk about warning signs. We do talk about hot seats. We talk about these kinds of things. And Nashville has come up a lot because they're not scoring. They're relying on Hani Mukhtar. You pin Hani Mukhtar down, Nashville's not doing anything. If you allow Nashville, who doesn't like to possess the ball, you give them a turnover in your half of the field because of their pressure or because you do something that you're not supposed to. It's like running the spread in college football. Time of possession doesn't matter if you're scoring. Time of possession in soccer, if you're not scoring, that's not a good mix. Sam Surgill's brought in. He's not the answer to help out up top. That has not been the answer. Might have been the answer in Leagues Cup or an Open Cup or something, but not during MLS play. And Gary Smith has said he's looking for initial investment on the player side. I want to know what they're going to do in the summer window. Maybe we should have Lucas Panzica on the show to ask him what his gut tells him about this particular team. But 6 categories in the last 10 months. Once again, July 1st last year to the end of last season, and getting it to basically the 1/3 pole at the tricky triangle. You are 27th, 24th, 28th, 25th, 26th, and 25th in 6 categories in Major League Soccer. That ain't working. I know injuries are a part of it. Not having Walker Zimmerman, as that stalwart in the back, not helping. And Jacob Schaffelberg and Shaq Moore and Teal Bunbury and others can only do so much. They ain't Hani Mukhtar. So that's where Nashville is right now. And like I said, we talk about what's up with Nashville and Nashville being Nashville right now, and there's a reason that there's only one team below them in the standings in the East. 10 goals scored, 17 allowed, 8 points, 9 matches. You are 1, 3, and 5 at the quarter pole. The only team that's worse than you is New England. And that's why I always will ask about hot seats and things. Gary Smith's seat better be hot. Caleb Porter's, I don't know. We'll ask Niko coming up in about a half an hour if he thinks that how hot Caleb Porter's seat is, how hot Gary Smith's seat is and or should be. How much patience that a franchise front office is going to have. But like I said, Gary Smith has asked for reinforcements. He has asked for reinforcements in the summer window. And with the rule change / tweak, so I guess technically it'll be a rule tweak / change as we go further down the calendar. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to bring in reinforcements to help out Mukhtar? They're going to try to shore up the back? I don't know. And this is one of those things that you sit there and you're like, what do you do? It's intriguing at this point. You've given up 17 goals in 9 matches. You've only scored 10 in 9. You're 1-1-4 at home. You have not won away this season. 0-2-1. So three of your 9 have been away from home, and at home you're 1-1-4. San Jose tied you. So that's where things are with Nashville. But yeah, 6 separate metrics. You are 24th or lower in the last 10 calendar months. That's not good. So we'll see where Nashville continues to either grow, evolve, or stay stagnant. And if it's that third one, they could be really in trouble. Kepsy said Terry took a look at Stein's Took a look, Steins the room, saw Wilfried had it in him. They needed to be home and instead of Montreal. Michael Valverde. Nancy has the team performing beyond their individual talent levels. That's great coaching. Kefsey, with family, Thierry wanted to go. Who knew other than him how good Wilfried was? Well, and Michael says everything's easier with Nagbe. I would say early in his crew career, yes. But Darlington Nagbe is not the player that he was a couple of years ago. Of course, we always talk about that with Father Time and Mother, and Father Time and Mother Nature are undefeated. Father Time is. I think that in the system, you need Darlington's experience, but at the same time, you have talent around him that can help him. Where when Darlington was here, he was that fulcrum. As you get older, you're going to need more and more help to continue to be a part of that offense and do what you need to do. And when you have creative freedom and Darlington can be more defensive instead of more of a point guard, I think that helps him out. But I mean, if you look at the starting lineup from last night, let's take a look at the starting lineup from last night for Columbus Crew going up against Monterrey. And I mean, the old joke goes from a buddy of mine that some of these folks aren't even household names in their own household. And obviously, you've got the firepower that's there. But if you look at it, the starting lineup last night for Wilfried Nancy, Patrick Schulte in net. A year ago, no one would have blinked twice about Patrick Schulte in net. Now he's being looked at by folks in Europe. Understandably so. I don't know if he's ready for Europe, but he's doing very, very well in this system of Wilfried Nancy's. It was listed as a 3-4-2-1, but it could drift into a 4-3-3. Could be a 4-2-3-1. Once again, it just depends on the particular moment in the act. And don't get bogged down in the numbers. But last night, your back three, Steven Moreira, Rudy Camacho, Yevon Shiberko. Ring any bells? Out of the hardcores of you? Midfield four, Yaya Boa, who we got to see in MLS, in USL Championship and MLS Next Pro. Nagbe, Aiden Morris, and Sean Zawadzki. Aiden Morris, you know. Darlington Nagbe, you know. Yaya Boa, unless you're a hardcore, maybe not so much. And then obviously Cucho, Diego Rossi. And then you bring in Inestrosa in the offseason. But look at that starting 11. Schulte, Shiberko, Camacho, Moreira, Zawadzki, Morris, Nagbe, Yeboah, Inestrosa, Diego Rossi, Cucho, Hernandez. For the casual fan, there is some name recognition there. But you got guys that Wilfried Nancy wanted. He wanted them because they fit his idea. I'm not going to say a system, but his idea about what he wanted to do. The bench last night. Derek Jones, 27-year-old defender. Will Sands, 23-year-old defender, supplemental. Jason Russell-Rowe, who we knew from New England. Malte Amundsen, Alexandru Matan, Christian Ramirez, Cole Moroka, Taha Habrun, once again, system. Max Arfston, supplemental spot for a 23-year-old forward out of Fresno, California. Nicholas Hagen, Guatemalan keeper. And then the last player on the bench, your third keeper, Cole Johnson. Seriously, you look at that roster. Derek Jones, Will Sands, Jason Russell-Rowe, Malty Amundsen, Alexandru Matan, Christian Ramirez, Cole Maroka, Taha Habrun, Arfston, and 2 keepers. That's your bench. Once again, if you follow MLS every week, you know most of these folks. But you'd have to follow MLS Next Pro almost to be kept up to date on Jason Russell-Rowe, who scored the final goal of the match for Crew, and Taha Habrun, who was with Crew 2 last year and the year before. Christian Ramirez, would have loved Christian Ramirez in Atlanta a couple years ago. Was with Aberdeen. Stephen Glass had him on the right path. Stephen Glass gets let go, and Christian Ramirez is sitting on a bench. Picking up HRs. He's picking up hours. Not doing much because he was misused once Stephen Glass left. But you got to see the kind of offensive talent that Christian Ramirez was when he was at Aberdeen. Wilfried Nancy's like, ooh, I dig that. You bring him in. Alexandru Matan, flashes, put in the right situations. Once again, all of these folks under this idea, this umbrella of what Wilfried Nancy wants to do. That versus Nashville. Nashville's got the name recognition, got a lot of the dudes that you sit there and you gravitate toward, you know. Columbus, maybe not so much, but who's doing better? Columbus. So that's what you're looking at with this. That's what you're staring at right now. Yeah, Hutch, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you. What's gaining on you right now is the idea across the board of not letting philosophy bog you down, or formation. Don't let formation bog you down. Nancy's got an idea. He knows what his basic ideas are, what his constructs are. Pressure, clinical, and having folks that fit an idea. And that is why we have been trumpeting Wilfried Nancy for God knows how long. And he's the man, and he showed it, and Columbus showed it last night, why they are the man right now in Major League Soccer. You can sit there and talk to me about Messi and friends all day long. Right now, it's Columbus and Wilfried Nancy. And it also proves the theory that you don't have to spend all of that money on all those dudes to do well in a competition. If you look at the competition, you look on the other side of the touchline, you know what you're facing, but you're confident in your own ideas, you see what happens. And you don't have to break the bank to do it. Although I would anticipate that the Haslams are going to have to break the bank to keep a lot of these folks there. And the key will be wondering how long you can keep the band together and make sure that you don't keep them too long. You keep the band together too long, you see what's happening right now in a place like Philadelphia. We're running it back one more time. Might have been one too many. Jose Martinez is on social media after he's replaced at 45 minutes. Andre Blake goes on Instagram and is talking about how cryptically it might be time. That's going to be the key. If Columbus is going to continue to be one of the top teams in Major League Soccer over X number of years, the key is to make sure that you're not there too long. You know when to leave the dance. You know when to sit there and you know, hey, it ain't personal, it's business. That's going to be the key for Columbus going forward. Yeah, you can throw money at a problem. Fantastic if you can do it. But is it going to solve all of your ills? Sometimes the answer is no. Wilfried Nancy has pieced together what he wants to piece together, and you're seeing what he's piecing together. I know that was very incredibly official and deep thinking, but right now, you shrug your shoulders and you tip your hat. That's what everybody should be chasing after. That kind of an idea. Everyone has their philosophy. Everyone can be successful in their own philosophy. Right now, Columbus has their idea. Is it going to fit for everybody? No. Right now, Columbus is doing it their way. Be confident in your way of doing things. Whomever you are. Vanni Sartini, if you're confident, great. Eric Ramsey, if you've got an idea and you're confident, great. Greg Vanny, throw money at a problem. If it works and you hit the jackpot, great. Steve Cherundolo, not so great. Cross town. Nick Cushing, not so much. Sandro Schwartz, maybe. So that's what you're staring at. If you've got an idea, you believe in it, and you have the faith in yourself and the faith in your system and the faith in the people that you've got and the ones around you, you get to see those kinds of results. Columbus has gone on the road and won on the road against Liga MX teams 2 times in a row in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. And you see what they're doing. Nashville is not. Nashville's in a world of hurt right now. Gary Smith's called for reinforcements. Is he going to get them? Or is the career dissipation light going to go into overtime for Gary Smith before those resources come to play? So we'll see. And I also find it interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but there was an article. There was an article in The Athletic. And literally, this is the headline from Allie Rampling at The Athletic. I'm going to post the headline in the Twitch pitch. This was the headline this morning for an article in The Athletic. Should Guardiola quit at the end of the season? Seriously. That was a headline in The Athletic this morning. Allie Rampling's article. Should Guardiola quit at the end of the year? Really? You've got folks. You've got folks who write for a living wishing coaches away. Let's go into the article. I want to see what Allie Rampling had in mind here. Long-serving managers calling it quits. Klopp, Hayes. But should Manchester City's Pep Guardiola follow suit? If City finished the season with an unprecedented 4th consecutive Premier League title, Michael Cox thinks he should. Michael Cox is not smart. Looking back, and this is Cox's headline. Looking back at Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement 11 years ago, the curious thing was that his decision was both unexpected and also completely logical. Goes into a bit of the numbers by 2013. Should Pep Guardiola's Manchester City win this season, there will be nothing left for Guardiola to achieve with City. That would be the club's 4th straight league title, the first time any club in English league history has won 4 on the bounce. Huddersfield Town, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United have all managed 3. 4 will be unique. Winning 4 in a row would go alongside Guardiola's other historic achievements in English football. Record points tally of 100. Country's first ever domestic treble. Won the second ever proper treble last season. Hasn't simply won trophies, but won them relentlessly and in unprecedented fashion. With one more title, Guardiola's dominance of English football will effectively be complete. What's to be gained by staying on? A 5th in a row, sure, but that landmark isn't as significant as becoming the first side to win 4. A second European Cup would be welcome, certainly, but there's more prestige in successfully retaining the cup. Something only Real Madrid have done in the Champions League era. Real, of course, ended City's dream in the quarters. In terms of Guardiola's legacy, there are more risks from staying on. If Arsenal continue to be City's main challenger and pips them to the title, there'd be a certain dissatisfaction in Guardiola being beaten by his former assistant. On the other hand, if Guardiola were to resign, City were to fall away, and Mikel Arteta's Arsenal were to triumph, that would actually reflect well on his legacy. And if someone else were to beat Guardiola to the title, Arne Slot, for example, then perhaps he would instantly look a little dated. Leave after triumphing this season, and he's untouchable. There are other aspects to consider too. Beautiful football is a matter of taste. Not everyone liked Guardiola's possession-based approach, even at Barcelona's peak, but it's generally agreed that Guardiola's sides have typically played open, attractive football with lots of creative players. Noticing a theme this morning? Attempted to take football in a different direction, more based on technical and tactical aspects. Last couple of seasons, to get over the line in Champions League, he's beefed up his side, often fields 4 center backs across the defense and a big battering ram up front. It's not quite the futuristic football he was once renowned for. 5 in a row with an increasingly functional side, and we're probably into the realms of tedium. All right. Michael Cox, you got my click, and that's about it. And by the way, when it comes to the subscription of this particular periodical, I love how they try to charge you like $80. And then you're like, nope, I'm done. Oh, well, come back. How about $1 a month? So Michael Cox from The Athletic posits that Pep Guardiola would be best served if he won and walked away. Are you blanking crazy? But like I said, you got my click. You got me to talk about the article. And all of your ideas as to why Pep Guardiola should walk away. You're basically trying to push one of the best coaches of this era and one of the best coaches of all time out the door. You don't understand what Pep Guardiola's done over time. Pep Guardiola has adapted to the game in front of him. It has nothing to do with, he's changed. He's changed to having 4 center backs and a battering ram. He understands how the game has developed. Michael Cox is playing checkers. Pep Guardiola is playing Vulcan chess. And Michael Cox got me to click on this article because of the headline. A case for Guardiola to resign. You just don't want him around. That's the bottom line here. You could care less. Bring me back to the hoof it era. Just send it long. To hell with player imagination. To hell with John Stones being a center striker back for ish sakes. Kyle Walker getting engaged in the play. Rodri being a linchpin to what you do. Josko Vardiol being an impact player in the system. Michael Cox wants to remove Pep Guardiola from the Premier League. That's what the bottom line is about this article that he wrote. Like I said, you got me to click on it because of the headline. Your logic is flawed beyond repair. You want Pep Guardiola to leave. He adjusts every single time the game has changed in front of him, continues to win, could win a 4th straight Premier League title, and you're trying to boot him out onto the street. What I think Michael Cox does not have is an appreciation for how great coaches adapt to the game in front of them. Think about think about the titles that he had and the personnel that he had to win those first. When you have somebody like Vincent Kompany at the back. And you have the athletic game changers up front. If it just so happens that one of the most imposing forces in the sport today happens to be the size of J.J. Watt, that's what you go with. If you are an individual, that understands what is going on today in the game and the hot commodity, and Alex, I'll get to your hot take in a sec. If the hot commodity just happens to be a redwood that can score and jump out of a gym, are you going to say, no, I don't want him? I think any manager would want to have someone like an Erling Haaland up front. And if you can get him because of your pedigree, you're going to chase after him. And if there's any manager out there that says that they don't want Erling Haaland up front, that they could do things better with X, Y, and Z, then they're wrong. And they're also fibbing to you. But I think that what we're seeing with Pep Guardiola is a manager that has adjusted to how the game has adjusted, and he is going along with the changes. And if it just so happens that right now, these days, you are sending it to a big dude up front that can head the ball in the back of the net, then that's how it is. You lose Gundogan, you have Bernardo Silva and Rodri. Kevin De Bruyne, you've navigated his health issues. You bring in Nathan Ake to help you with the back. John Stones is not the John Stones that we knew 5 years ago. Kyle Walker, still there. Jeremy Doku, Josko Vardiol, Julian Alvarez. Manchester City's diving into the South American market for players. Short of Alex's Newcastle diving into the South American marketplace for players. I cannot, with a great deal of depth, give you an answer as to how many clubs in the Premier League are going to the South American market, Enzo Fernandez, to bring in players. It's only a handful of teams that are chasing after players in the South American marketplace. Manchester City happens to be one of them. Newcastle is one of them. It's a guy that we're kind of intimately familiar with. You're diving into Major League Soccer's marketplace, but he's from South America. But you have an article basically saying, Pep, it'd be best if Pep left. Sure. Okay. Like I said, you got my click. Good for you. But you also had my subscription anyway. Alex, Hutch, functional TD equals winning. Alex's hot take. He says, City bore me for long periods in a match. And I love pretty football. It's like watching a boxing match where there's very little punching and one guy just holds the other guy in a chokehold for 80 minutes. Yeah, just kind of, does rope-a-dope. But the thing is, and I know that, and Alex is just talking about, Brighton. True. Yes, absolutely. Valentin Barco. Oh, what a pickup that was. And Alex is just talking about the entertainment factor, acknowledging the dominance. I mean, and that's the thing is that with a club like Manchester City, because of how they are stacked and because of the history and because of the winning, they could be in a tie match or they could be down with 20 to go, and you're still sitting there going, okay, they're going to flip the switch and they're going to win it. Michael Cox, however, at The Athletic, if Manchester City hangs on through their run-in, which they should, of course, anything happens in this league anyway, but they should hang on. They should win a fourth. Michael Cox is positing that the world will be a better place if Pep Guardiola retired or left Manchester City. I know eventually he'll probably come over. What do you want to bet that come the new barn in Queens, Pep Guardiola is your head coach at NYCFC? Stays in the City Football Group. There'll be a time where he's had enough. Then he'll walk away. Michael Cox will be happy. He'll write another article about all the plaudits that he should receive. And then he'll take a year off. He'll get a Central Park West, big blanking condo overlooking the park. Then he'll be the head coach at NYC. Guarantee it. Pep loves New York. He'll stay in the City Football Group. He'll retire, be an ambassador for a year or so. Dylan Butler Estates gets constructed with not enough seats, but they'll be expensive as ish. And Pep Guardiola will eventually be the head coach at NYC. Yet Michael Cox feels that the Premier League would be a better place if Pep Guardiola retired and left Manchester City after this season. There are things that drive us all. Whether it is continuing to look over your shoulder, fear of failure, All those things that drive us on a daily basis to continue to push and chase for frontiers that we haven't had the chance to push for in the past. You know, to win an award we've never won, to win a title we've never won, to set a bar that no one else can reach. Yet Michael Cox is positing at The Athletic that the Premier League in Manchester City might be better off if Pep Guardiola retired. Wrong. That's just me. And like I said, I mean, I acknowledge me. I mean, it, you know, you will have one of those times where Pep will call it a day. And if things go sideways involving the billable hours, maybe it will. But after this season, if they win a fourth and they beat the other Manchester team and get the second title the week after the regular season's over and you end up with a double, FA Cup and Premier League, Pep Guardiola would sit there and go, man, we should have had it in Champions League. And then what he will do is he will continue to toil and figure out what went wrong and figure out how to improve on what happened this year. How do we get back to a treble? Will anyone ever win a quint? I don't know. I think doubles and trebles, I think, are probably the safer plays on the board. If somebody gets a quad, it'd be unbelievable. If somebody got a quint, handful, who knows? But Michael Cox positing that Pep Guardiola, we'd be better off if Pep retired, much like Sir Alex Ferguson did. No. Sorry, I disagree. Circle gets the square. Two squares left. Paul in the block. All right. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it. Niko Moreno joining us in just a little bit. A case to be made for Pep Guardiola to retire after this season. Sure thing. Get right on that. All right. Arsenal prepared to listen to offers for Gabriel Jesus. Also, hopeful Jorginho will snub interest from Juve, Lazio, and Napoli to sign a contract extension. Brighton will look to lure Kieran McKenna away from Ipswich if De Zerbi leaves at the end of this season. Spurs targeting Conor Gallagher along with Feyenoord striker Santiago Jimenez this summer. Also have eyes on Bournemouth defender Lloyd Kelly. Everton could be forced to sell Jordan Pickford if the takeover by 777 collapses. Shocking, no one, there'd be a lot of suitors. Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Newcastle among the favorites to sign Everton's Amadou Onana. Manchester United planning to stick with Erik ten Hag next season because of the lack of a clear alternative, along with the cost of firing the Dutchman. Sir Dave Brailsford, Ineos assembled the multi-sport empire, focusing on football, cycling, F1, rugby, and running. New faces under Ineos at Manchester United. You've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe's club. United announced that the club's chief financial officer, Cliff Beattie, is going to leave at the end of the season. Patrick Stewart, interim chief executive, not that Patrick Stewart, leaving as well. Not surprising because they recruited Omar Barada, the chief operating officer for Manchester City, to be their new chief executive in the summer. United appointed Jean-Claude Blanc, former chief exec at PSG and the CEO of Ineos Sport, as a new interim chief exec to replace Stewart in the weeks between the end of the season late and when Barada assumes power on July 13. So, in the article, basically it means United has an interim chief exec to replace an interim chief exec, when it might have been more natural for Stewart just to keep going until Barada arrives in a little over 2 months. So you wonder if Stewart and Ineos were like, nope, can't do it anymore. And just the sheer cost of all of these activities could be a bit of a concern when it comes to players. Unhappy, get this, Ineos is unhappy that the club made just under £650 million in revenue for the year ending June 30, 2023, only still to lose over $42 million. Ineos believes a revamp of the club's method of recruiting footballers will go a long way to improving this. And the consultancy was also enlisted to review the costs of the club. Company credit cards have been taken away from staffers. Last week, staff discovered they'd have to pay £20 if they wanted to travel on a club-provided coach to the FA Cup final at Wembley, May 25th. It's a tradition. Club's workforce offered a complimentary ticket. That has been retained, but they are now asking, the club is now asking, that folks contribute to the journey. No free food provided en route between Manchester and London this year. Ineos also thinks that United's workforce is bloated, creating insecurity among the rank and file. Staff members anxious to find out whether they're going to keep their jobs. Some questioning if the club's bonus scheme will be retained or if that's going to go away. There might be some redundancy. Eyebrows raised when when United's filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission upon completion of the minority stake deal revealed that both Stewart and Beatty had received completion bonuses equal to 2 times their annual salary. Afforded to the pair's board members, but not extended to every member of the ELT, was not making everybody happy. Beatty and Stewart cashed in. We're now implementing a clampdown on expenses and cost controls. Ineos is blowing up a lot of the Glazer executive team. Ineos may even prefer folks to look other places for gigs. You know, like if you see something, go for it. We're not gonna stand in your way. Staff members still optimism about what United wants to do, but they're still having extensive deliberations when it comes to Ten Hag, due to expire the contract summer of 2025. Helped by Ineos's view that United's executive team above him did not provide him with the greatest chance to succeed, as well as a lack of clear alternatives, and then the cost of firing him and hiring a replacement. Planning with Ten Hag in mind for next season, meaning Ineos. Ineos is not going to hesitate if they see that sufficient evidence is going in the other direction. So you got that. Also, when it comes to what folks are staring at, when it comes to the gossip, the rumor, and the innuendo, before we get into what to watch and where to watch it. And once again, today at least you won't be interrupted. Your CBS News local viewing won't be interrupted by a Champions League semifinal. Also, Bruno Fernandes says his future at Manchester United is going to depend on whether the club want him to stay beyond the summer. No shock. Newcastle will not be pressured into selling Bruno Guimaraes below his £100 million release clause, or parting with a Sweden striker Alexander Isak. Three-letter paper says they are closing in, however, on Fulham defender Tosin Adarabioyo on a free transfer. He's also attracted interest from AC Milan, Manchester United, Liverpool, and he has informed Fulham he's not going to sign a new deal when his contract expires. Four-letter paper. Dortmund are considering bringing back Jurgen Klopp as head of football in 25. Liverpool could look to sign Eintracht Frankfurt and Ecuadorian defender Willian Pacho, then loan him back for 24-25. West Ham expected Mohamed Kudus, Lucas Paquetá, and Edson Alvarez to push for moves away from the club. Fluminense have presented a formal proposal to sign Thiago Silva. Feyenoord assistant manager Sipke Hulshoff, head of performance Ruben Peters, analyst Etienne Reinen have agreed to follow Arne Slot to Liverpool. Everton are monitoring Hull City center back Jacob Greaves and Blackburn Rovers forward Sami Zamatic. Juve and AC Milan turned their attention away from Joshua Zirkzee due to fears that the Bologna forward would prefer a summer move to Arsenal. Barcelona defender Ronald Araujo is deciding whether to sign a new deal amid interest from United and Bayern. Austria Football Association President Klaus Mitterdorfer hopes Ralf Rangnick is going to reject a move to Bayern. He did this morning at about 5 a.m. Crystal Palace manager Oliver Glasner would like to be reunited with Philip Kostic. from Juve, who he managed at Eintracht Frankfurt. And in another instance of dumb, I don't know if you've seen the video, but it's from the lower divisions in Wales. And you have, and Dell reminded me of it when I watched. Dell, once again, you had a coach sucker punch a teenage linesman. Like I said, the video's out there. I mean, and it's from an angle, and you see the teenage linesman going down the touch line, and you get a coach who decides that he wants to punch a teenage linesman. I mean, seriously. I mean, it was legitimately a sucker punch. Teenage linesman, I swear, you look at the video, the kid might be 16. And literally, he's walking down the touch line, and the manager basically cold cocks him with a right hand. And, there, first and foremost, there is no place for that ever anywhere. I don't care where. There's no place for that. And I mean, and honestly, frankly, I'm hoping, and for those that didn't get the chance to see it, it's right there. Forget the published part. Go to the second part of the link. It's in the Twitch pitch. But legitimately, teenage linesman just walking up and down doing his job. He's an AR. And you have the coach, after he passes him the first time, the linesman's walking back to him and literally just takes out his right hand and just smacks him right cross. And he hit him so hard he knocked him into the bench a good 6-7 feet away. I'm hoping that the teenage linesman, isn't afraid to press charges, because it's assault. It's flat out assault. You get smacked like that. I hope that the Welsh FA bans the guy for life. I don't know how. I mean, takes away his coaching license, takes away all that stuff, takes him out of the sport completely. But literally, it's a teenager. And you feel compelled as a grown man in age only. I'm not going to say between the ears. You literally think that what you think the best thing to do is take a swing at somebody. It's idiotic. It's that time on a Thursday, final half hour of the show. And let's bring it back to actually stuff that's going on the field of play for a change. So it's our buddy Niko. We get to find out what's in the mug, what the mug is, and we'll roll through Major League Soccer. It's Thursdays with Niko right now. And you got a backdrop. Where are you? This is different.
I know. Can we check audio and everything?
You're good.
Are we good? Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with my regular internet option on my phone. It's been acting up, and I had to go through another form of Chrome or something to get on with you today. But no backdrop, but here I am. It's the same place where I always sit. Is just the back wall of my office right here. Got the Green Brave mug.
All right.
In sense that they're alive, that they have a pulse, that they have used this trip of 2 consecutive games away from home to just have a little bit of inspired play and give this fan base some hope that they can at least reach the playoffs this season.
Well, I mean, is this the beginning officially of Zombie Sounders? Is this when they turn the corner and everything's cool?
I don't want to go so far as to call it the defining moment, the turnaround point, the momentum changer. But yes, I mean, there were aspects of a team that shows some life, right? So maybe they're not zombie Sounders just yet, but they're starting to maybe move a little bit out of that grave that they've been on, out of that grave of poor play, out of that grave of lack of just fight in so many points. Exactly. It seems like they've reacted. And this Philadelphia game still wasn't perfect. You, as a Sounders, were dominating that first half. There was so much, again, I want to call it inspired play because that's what he seemed like. My questions to Obed Vargas, who was probably one of the most important players of that game, just looked, he called it free. I was having fun. He just seemed to be playing different in this particular game. Raul Diaz showing you a little vintage Raul with that clever goal, heads up play. Not just because the way he intercepts the pass, the way he gets forward, but he immediately picks up his head, sees goalkeeper off his box, and just goes for it. Right, puts it away. I think that really gave the Sounders confidence, momentum, and they built off that. But then in the second half, despite a golazo as well from Obed Vargas, who, again, that goal that he has is quality. Leo Chu gives him the ball. Leo Chu takes a space. The defender goes with Leo Chu. Then Obed Vargas is able to cut inside and shoot, have a beautiful first goal for his MLS goal ever. So it was the perfect first half. And then in the second half, some of those issues they've had in the past, both not finishing chances, defensively, just soft moments, not pressuring quick enough, not getting out of their own back on a set piece. Nuhu just too passive. And if Nuhu is going to continue to be a guy where you understand and allow his limitations offensively, is because he's supposed to be a defensive guy. But when you're a defensive guy and you don't hold your end of the bargain, it's kind of hard to argue those fans that want to see more of Cody Baker and other players, right? So all in all, I think the Sounders do take these 3 points like a plant takes rain and sun. I mean, they needed it so badly. Brian Smetzer even in the post conference mentioned, I just want to talk about the good, and I'm proud of what these guys did out there. We're not going to talk about that second half and conceding 2 goals. And Brian himself not putting JP when it looked like maybe the game was going to get taken away from this team. The way they ended against the ropes in this one is not great. But as I started this segment, they show life, they show inspired play, they showed some great offensive movements. Now they play an LA Galaxy team that won't be easy, but at least they have this Philadelphia game to just rely on.
So then let me ask you about Philadelphia. Because Philadelphia decided, for whatever reason, financial familiarity, I love my roster, I love my guys, whatever, that they're going to run it back one more time. Did they run it back too many times? Did they run it back once too often? I mean, because Jose Martinez gets pulled at 45 minutes, and then he decides he's going to comment on social media about what's going on. Andre Blake, he comments on a black screen, on a black background on his Instagram account that it might be time to check out of the inn. Did Philadelphia hang on 1 year too long to a lot of these folks?
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism, and that's a fair take. It's difficult sometimes to stick to your philosophy and what you want to do and work guys from your academies and build players and develop players without a little bit of a balance, without maybe adding some players, especially in today's MLS. This team is based off of a style of play, a soccer module, and what some players that have been doing it last season and in the season before that can provide in specific field, in specific parts of the field, specifically Carranza, specifically Gazdag. but that midfield needs some rejuvenation. And yes, you have Jose Bueno, who's a really good player, but hasn't really broken through yet. Brujo, a lot like some of the greats, Dax McCarty and Godoy and all these players, they need some help when they get after a certain age. Diego Chará, these players just need a little bit of help. Bedoya, I mean, you don't need to say anything else. So I understand why players and fans can become irate with the situation and the fact that you lost to a Sounders team that you probably were not expecting to lose against. The week before, you lose against RSL because RSL just had more quality. Chicharrongo, the X factor, the playmaker, Gomez. I mean, you really got beat because you were not good in front of goal and you just didn't have those X factors. And it's funny because it feels like I'm talking about the Sounders because they have a lot of the similar issues. But at the end of the day, it is about just this organization maybe not given more to amplify and extend the window that they've had since they lost that final against the LAFC header by Garrett Bell. And if you don't do more to keep that window open, he's going to shut real quick. And I think that's what fans are afraid of. That's what players are concerned of. And that's why you're getting all of these takes on Philadelphia.
So you look at Philly, and we obviously, we see what's going on there with them. We talked about Nashville this morning also. And Nashville, American Soccer Analysis was breaking down the numbers of the last 10 calendar months. So like from July 1st to the end of last season and the beginning of this season to now. And they are in their bottom 5 franchises in 6 offensive categories. And it ain't looking good right now. And Gary Smith has called for reinforcements to deal with the injuries that he had at the back. The replacements aren't working. You bring in Sam Surridge. That hasn't worked short of Open Cup play or Leagues Cup or what have you. Nothing in MLS has worked. What about Nashville? And should Gary Smith be looking over his shoulder now?
I mean, yeah. And again, it's not necessarily that we can only blame Gary Smith and we as media, and I'm sure as fans, probably want to give him the benefit of the doubt because of the success he's had and that he's not lying about what he has to work with. I mean, when you're tying with San Jose, a team that has very little to put fear of God on any team, and throughout the season, we've seen that his defensive structure has always been good, but it also can't just be held on, and what Gary Smith wants to do can be executed by what he has. It's pretty obvious. I mean, I think you played with Lovitz as one of your center backs in a 3-man back line last game. Godoy just seems like he's stretched out too far. How much longer can they squeeze more juice out of Schaffelsberg? He's a good player. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but there should be more than that, right? There should be more. You lost guys like Dax McCarty, and you were not able to really replace them. Mukhtar can only give so much. So there is that sense of Gary Smith's probably in getting the short end of the stick here, because maybe he should have been a little bit more aggressive on saying this before the season started, because he knew what he was going to have to work with. And he might get the shaft for it just because it is very simple. And sometimes when you're talking about moving on from an era and trying to revamp a team, the coach is one of the first to go. So that's why we have so many coaches in the hot seat. Gary Smith's definitely one of them.
And when you look at, as we continue to go here, it's like it's New England, it's Nashville, it's San Jose, it's Dallas. I don't think anything has changed, maybe short of Nick Cushing at NYCFC, where they've won and he's kind of inched his way up away from all of the noise for a little bit. But when it comes to Columbus and what Columbus has done on the flip side with Wilfried Nancy, and let me ask it this way, because we did a bit of a deep dive on Wilfried Nancy this morning in Columbus after what they've done the last 2 rounds in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza Tournament of Champions and galactic winners and losers. Is Wilfried Nancy still underappreciated in your mind?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. No, I think that if he went to Columbus, it was for a reason. I think everybody knew exactly what he provided. If he got the money that he wanted, is because he was appreciated.
And Joey Saputo was like, "I don't know what I've got here. You can go. I don't want you." And
No, absolutely. And just when you start to see, and I don't want to start this too early, but when you got a guy like Courtois that's in Montreal, that's out of his coaching tree, I guess you could say, everybody understands what Wilfried does and what his attributes are and how strategically better he is than coaches around the league. So I think he's appreciated. What he just did to get his team through in CONCACAF Champions Cup was unbelievable. I was one of the most aggressive critics when he decided to sit Cucho. Mm-hmm. Even that worked for him. And it hasn't affected his team, and it hasn't affected Cucho. So even when he takes those sort of decisions that maybe can be misconstrued as an ego thing or as just being a drill sergeant, when those things are working with the type of player that Cucho is, that Rossi is, that Matan is, you have to just tip your hat. So I think that everyone has seen it. I think that if there was any doubt, that's absolutely gone at this time. So I think he's appreciated. I think we all understand that he could be one of the coaches that even maybe takes a step out of MLS at some point.
And you look at and I think that with Wilfried Nancy, it is this idea of an approach and a philosophy. And we like I said, we talked about it in hour 1 that we continue to remind folks that don't get hung up on formations. Just because somebody sits there and says, well, they play a 4-3-3 or they're a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2 or whatever. Don't get hung up on the number. Don't get hung up on that. It's what these individuals do when it comes to the philosophy that the head coach has set forward. If, and I got on a rant about Pep Guardiola this morning because there was an article in England saying that maybe Pep should retire at the end of this season and walk away from Manchester. And I'm like, really? Okay, so you got my click. It was a dumb click. It was a clickbait commentary. But when you have coaches who adapt to the game in front of them and understand it's like, okay, so the game has zigged, so I need to zag, and I need to go this way, and I need to do this instead. Wilfried Nancy has folks that understand it's like, look, I want you to play the game in front of you. Don't get stuck on a formation. If you've got space and I can trust that you can dribble the ball 40 yards and jump into the play, and if you're a center back, go for it, bruh. That seems like what we're looking at with Columbus. And don't get wrapped up on the idea that it might be a 3-4-2-1 or something, because you're going to see center backs bombing forward. You're going to see wingers working their way from, up the wings. They might underlap, center backs might sit there. They might drift to the outside. But everybody understands that if there is a movement forward, that somebody else has to come in from behind to help out. And it could be an odd look at some points. But it's just everyone has embraced the philosophy of Wilfried Nancy. Don't get bought up in the numbers of the idea of it being a 3-4-3 or whatever, because when that whistle goes, formation's out the door.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with some of the things you're saying, and I get what your jest is. But I do believe that what makes a lot of coaches, including Pep, including Wilfried, and not comparing them by any means, it's just in their own universe, their own world, their own leagues, is the ideology and the philosophy and the structure. And I've said that consistently, and maybe people don't understand, but when you have a soccer module that you can grab with you, pack it up and put it somewhere else, and the only thing that changes when you go from team A to team B is your resources and what you're getting. So nothing out of what Wilfried has done here in Columbus is not things that you kind of saw with him in Montreal, right? And a lot of what he does is some of the things that Courtois does, right? So that's what I'm talking about, the influence of one's philosophy. And when you're talking about formation, yes, a lot of people get caught up because they believe that, oh, it's a 5-man back line, it can be defensive or whatever. But, that's, I don't know, I guess it's simplistic. It's just maybe people who are not as infused with the game, but it's all about how you could exploit what you need to get out of certain players, right? So who's going to give me my width? I know that my wingbacks are going to give my width. So those players have to have a specific set of skills. Who's going to be my guy that, like Cucho Hernandez, can, yes, be up top at the 9, but can easily very much drop, link up play, be a guy that pulls in center backs. Those are the things that I feel Columbus has done and Wilfried has installed into this team, where one of the biggest compliments I could give Wilfried Nancy is that you look at that bench and you could bring in Matan, Rowe, Hinestrosa, rotate them in, and as soon as they come in, they give you different things, but they all have the same ideology. Maybe the speed is different, maybe the burst, maybe where they run, but at the exact same time, they are so bought in that it seems like you don't skip a bit. Everybody just immediately adapts to that specific role, and you can go. Same goes for the defensive line. Sometimes Jabo is a guy that consistently works for this team. Sometimes he's not there, and still with a Munson, they do just as well. On the other side, I thought initially starting the season, I was like, wow, Farsi's going to be a guy that's never going to see the bench. Farsi's seen the bench, and you still get this team to just do fantastic things. So I just really applaud the way that he has implemented the soccer module and how everybody out of his entire roster, not 1 through 18, but just 1 through infinity, including guys that come in from the academies, just are all bought in, and that's what makes Wilfried so special.
Yeah, well, and if Columbus has a roster number of infinity, then they might be getting an envelope from the league office in New York trying to figure out how they got everybody under the cap if they have infinity on the roster size. You know what time it is? It is time to sit there and play cliffhanger for the upcoming matches of the week. And as we do cliffhanger, for those that have never seen this before, what we do is we run through the matches of the week coming up, and we'll go through matches that Niko has an interest in. If there is no interest in the match, I just give the juice box number and we just plow right on to the next match. If Niko has an interest in a particular match, he will stop me and he will say, okay, I need to find out more about this matchup. I like this one because of X, Y, and Z. So it is that time. Everything starts on Saturday night, 7:40 on Apple TV and Apple TV Plus. And since I finally figured out that my juice box aggregator does things alphabetically by home team after how many years we've been doing this segment, Atlanta United's first on the board because they start with the letter A, and they are a minus 137 at home against Minnesota United. Loons on the road are a plus 307, and their 32-year-old head coach, Eric Ramsey. I have baseball cards that are older than Eric Ramsey. What say you, Niko Moreno?
This is one where if the odds don't go in favor of the home team, in terms of your money, just don't play. What was the numbers in Atlanta again?
Minus 137 in the composite.
Yeah, no. And I'm not taking that. I'm not taking the goals. This could be a game that doesn't have a lot of those. Minnesota, it's an interesting team because they are a very direct team. They kind of exploit some of the basic things like set pieces, transitional play. They got a lot of speed up top where it can kind of catch you by surprise. And defensively, they're not great. They're not amazing, but they are a bend and don't break. And their bend is pretty far out. So they don't give out a lot of goals. When it breaks, it breaks. But recently, they've just been able to just hold on. St. Clair gives them a guy that you can count on taking 4 clear chances of goals from a team. So that's what's really held this team on, because I don't feel like there's anything really special about them. And I told you guys early this season that this was going to be a head scratcher all season long. They're going to be in and out of that playoff spots, and they're going to look really good sometimes, not so much in others. So I think Atlanta can definitely exploit this team, but it's not going to be by a lot. And Jokomaki still doesn't look 100% to me, or at least that's just my assessment on it. Yeah. Atlanta misses Silva, and you saw that in last game as well. Atlanta honestly should have won that Chicago game by a lot of goals. But you get I think it was 18 shots, 5 on goal, and you don't get anything to call, in the back of the net. So that's difficult against Minnesota. I don't think they'll have that many chances, so they'll have to be more clinical. But I do believe that the home team will at least get a minimal goal difference win in this one.
All right. Charlotte at home hosting Portland at a -119. DC United at home on the plus side is favored against Philadelphia. DC is a +129. Philadelphia on the quick turn after your match against Zombie Sounders is a +190. Messi and friends at home against Red Bulls. Messi and friends are a -127. Red Bulls are a +290. For issues and giggles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the total and see where over-under is. Over-under at 2.5 is a -159. Over-under 3.5 is a +154. I like the total at over 3.5 at +154. That's just me.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm going to be bold again and take New York in this one.
Really?
I feel like New York, and I'm not just going back to that last game in March where New York just kind of overwhelmed Inter Miami and beat them, 4-0. But I just feel like there's a lot of things that they can do, starting off and making it uncomfortable for Luis Suarez, for Sergio Busquets, because of their press, their athleticism in so many areas of the field. And then on the counter and the speed that they have with creative players, with like Captain Morgan, who's been freaking amazing. Forsberg in this one, I think, is going to be able to be a difference maker. So New York's made things difficult for Miami over the last 3 games. In general, I mean, if you go back and you look at those 3 games, not easy games for Miami. So because of that, because of the moment that Red Bulls have had, I know that Neil's not going to be in this one because he got a red card for that little hand of God situation he kind of put up there. But regardless of, for those numbers and my money, I'll take New York in this one.
Purple team favored at a +104, hosting FC Cincinnati at a +241. That one is in Central Florida. Busy night for our friends at MLS 360. They've got 3, 6, 7 matches out of the blocks. San Jose, underdog at home, almost at a +200, hosting LAFC. LAFC is a +117. And your last 7:30 matchup, 7:40 Eastern, Toronto FC at home, +120, hosting FC Dallas, who in the composite is a +221.
Hold up. So LAFC's +119 and
yeah, +117 on the road at San Jose, who is almost a +200 to win.
And what's the breakdown on goals for that one?
All right, so let's check on a total for San Jose and Los Angeles FC.
Because look, I understand that people like to go for that, Cali Classico, and San Jose has actually played LAFC pretty well over the last matches if you go to the head-to-head. But beyond that, I just feel like this specific San Jose team might not have enough to even limit this LAFC team. So I want to look at that goal differential.
+3.5 over under is a +154. So you're on the plus side at +3.5 if you go over.
No, I don't love it. I mean, I take it. I mean, that's your easy bet, I think. Yeah. Not enough to boost me to a really good one there. But I think LAFC takes this one. And I think depending on how little effort or how not competitive San Jose looks, we might start to see Lucci's seat get really, really hot, even though a lot of us might think it's unfair.
Yep, LAFC's at a +117, so you're making money walking in the barn if you think that LAFC is going to win outright anyway. So if you
That's right. Exactly.
LAFC's at a plus 117. Over at 3.5 is a plus 154. Central Time Zone, Chicago hosting the Revs. I wouldn't watch this game unless you were paying me to watch it. Fire favored at home at a minus 105. Wow, that's a dog. Houston and all caps. Houston hosting all caps. Houston slightly favored on the minus side at a minus 101. St. Louis City SC is a plus 250. Nashville and Montreal. Nashville favored at home at a minus 123. CF Montreal on the road is a plus 315. Neither team can score, and so I could see why. I'd probably go for an under total somewhere.
Yeah. What's the draw on this one?
Plus 271.
Oh man. Look, Montreal's been a real good road dog. And they've yes, they might not be able to score, but against a team like Nashville that also has difficulties of their own and their transitional play. This is one that I would be inclined to go for Montreal to just get the win because I like that plus on it. Mm-hmm. But I think that the draw in this one is probably just surface bet.
Yep. Under 2.5 is basically even money. Yeah, so it's not even worth looking at an over-under in this one. But, yeah, I've got to go. I like your draw idea. I really do. I like the draw in that particular matchup with those two, with Nashville and CF Montreal. RSL hosting Sporting. RSL at 9:30 Eastern time is a minus 135. Sporting on the road is a plus 334. I like RSL in that one.
Me too.
Late night, Vancouver hosting Austin FC. Vancouver and our buddy Vanni Sartini, a minus 152. Austin on the road is basically a plus 400.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't take Austin in this one, although they have somehow got a few results, and I think Stuver has a lot to do with it, to be quite frank. And getting Rossi back and him starting to do some things. But Vancouver is just a quality squad. You might not see, or some might, tell me that maybe Robbie Gold's not a start in this league, but he's a very productive player. White's a very productive player. I like Vite. I like that midfield. I feel like they push the ball really good. Defensively, they get a lot of men behind the ball when they have to. So, yeah, I think Vancouver takes this one, but in terms of money, it's not worth your money.
Sunday, 4 Eastern, NYC on the minus side hosting Colorado at a minus 125. And then your matchup at 6:45 Eastern, 3:45 local. Seattle and LAG. Seattle a minus 105. LAG is a plus 247 on the road at Seattle.
Well, you're going to put me in a difficult position here because those numbers are very good.
Uh-huh.
And I understand there's no Ricky in this one. He got a yellow card for throwing the ball right at Gallagher's face. Don't know why he did that. It was very dumb, especially to get you out of this game. Stephen Fry's red card has been rescinded after he was taken. He was given a red card against DC United in a play that I thought was a fair call at the time. But hey, if Disco's going to tell me that it's not, then I'm happy for the Sounders. I guess you could make the argument that he was playing the ball. He's not really looking exactly to swipe at Stroud's feet. But yeah, that gets rescinded. So Seattle does get, almost a full roster in this one. Alex Roldan is the one player that won't be available. So I'm guessing Cody Baker will play on that side, or Christian Roldan. Per Brian Smetzer right after the game, he was so excited. He even gave us an insight of what his 11 might look like against LA Galaxy. He said that Obed Vargas plays so well that he might have earned himself a spot right on the wing side if he has to pull Christian Roldan to play right back. So there might be some changes in this one. They're going to really disown me down here, but I would take that.
Just defer? Should you just defer this one this week?
I would take the Galaxy in this one, to be honest. For that price tag, I think it'll be a fun game. I would like to hear the compos on the goals, but I just feel like the LA Galaxy, even without Ricky, can really exploit this team, really stretch out that back line. Um, I understand that this team has shown some life, and they had a lot of opportunities against Philadelphia, but you're not going to be able to have that much possession. You're not going to be able to get numbers forward as easy when you know that you got a Gabriel Peck on one side, that you got Pencil on the other, that you got maybe Jovic back. I'm not sure if he'll be back for this one, but either way, man, I think that this Galaxy team has some studs, and therefore, even at home, I think they can really beat the Sounders in this one.
Yeah, Paintsel, Peck, and the Bishop. That would be a massive threesome up top if you ended up getting that, just to give you an idea. Over under. Over is a plus 144 at 3.5. 4 on the over. You can get anywhere from plus 240 to plus 284 to show you how wide-ranging that is. So if you're looking at over at 4, on the average, it's a plus 259. So that's what you're staring at 3.5 and 4 for your total in that one with LAG and Seattle Sounders.
No, I'll take the Galaxy and just run away with it. Just because of what you're getting, add what you're getting of a team that's proven time and time again that they can score some goals. And yes, they had that dud against Austin. And yes, they don't have Ricky, but I really do think that they can beat the Sounders, man.
247 right now in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. What's going on with Pulso Sports and the soccer bar? Because I know you got to get ready for that one.
I do, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my camera, by the way. So thank you for the reminder. I got to start figuring out what's wrong with my phone. So Soccer Bar, in just a little bit, we're going to take a deep dive into Columbus's win, the reasons behind Cucho's play, Rossi's influence. We're going to hear from Tano, which, man, if I could be somewhere yesterday, it would have been in that locker room and seeing Tano's sad face after getting smacked by Columbus, because he did a lot of talking against Miami, against MLS. He's such a protagonist. So I was excited to see that. So we're going to go into all of it. We're going to hear from all these coaches and players about this big game. We're going to get into the season that is coming up, as well as some of the latest additions in MLS, and maybe rate what are the 3 best winter closing windows teams that were able to boost their squads. And then in Pulso Sports, we're going to be at Providence Swedish Clubhouse. I guess that's the new name. I still like the Long Acres better. But we're going to be down there hearing from Brian Smetzer, what's going on with the team, where they're at. Where's Pedro de la Vega at? He was at 4 weeks about week and a half ago. Is he still in line to be back at that time? So all of that you'll find at Pulso Sports.
All right. So here's a topic for you when you're really hurting for topics. Would you, if you were the front office of the new club in San Diego, would you hire El Piojo to be your first manager in San Diego for Team 30 in Major League Soccer?
Absolutely, man. And I say that biasly because Miguel Herrera is one of the guys that I've had the pleasure of interviewing at least 2 times in a one-on-one sit down. I still reach out to him a lot of times. He's a guy that maybe a lot of people say that he's more of a gimmick and he's all about, being crazy in the sideline, and he's more of a motivational coach than anything, but he knows his X's and O's, man. He strategically, he has his own way of doing things, and he's a winner. He's won everywhere where he's been, or in most places where he's been. I know not lately. I get it. Don't sue me. What I'm saying, though, is that I feel like this guy is someone that'd be good for the league. He'd be fun in a press conference. He'd be fun in a league where you have to talk to the media as much as you do here in MLS. Mm-hmm. So I'll take that all day, every day, twice on Sundays. Give me Miguel Herrera. I would take him. I think he's a winner. I like the fire for so many people talk about coaches and what they would like to see. I like that passion, man. I like the yelling. I like the, screaming and looking like you're about to turn into a Super Saiyan in the, I love that. Love that. So, yeah, I would love to have him in this league. And I honestly think that he would be a guy that would really push that project in San Diego, especially if they get Chucky Lozano and, they have some of those guys that they're being reported. So absolutely, I take them. And I'm going to bring this up in Soccer Bar.
Attaboy. All right, we'll catch up with you next week, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. Great to see you. Be safe and enjoy your time at Providence Swedish, catching up with Brian Schmetzer.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
All right, that's Niko Moreno. That's our buddy at El Rolo and W on the Twitters. A couple of other things before we go. We got to talk to you about where things are, what to watch, where to watch it. Ben Jacobs says an independent regulatory commission has handed Newcastle's Sandro Tonali a 2-month ban suspended till the end of 24-25. Also been given a £20,000 fine and a warning for 50 breaches of the FA's gambling rules. The report discloses Tonali placed 4 bets on Newcastle to win an accumulator involving either Newcastle to beat Brighton on September 2, 2023, or Newcastle to beat Burnley on 30 September of 2023. An accumulator including Newcastle to beat Brentford on 16 September of 2023, a single on Newcastle to beat Manchester City on September 27, and an accumulator including Newcastle to beat West Ham on October 8. Tonali says the lack of clarity over the first bet placed on Newcastle is down to a lack of memory, but told the independent panel he didn't bet on both. He just couldn't recall if it was the Brighton or Burnley game he wagered on. Although Tonali says he can't remember how much he bet, it's noted stakes per bet were not more than €10,000. Tonali said he was not motivated by financial gain and unaware of the FA's betting rules. Also praised for his extraordinary cooperation, including self-reporting the breaches, and for the fact he has shown remorse. Tonali's, quote, significant suspension in relation to similar offenses in Italy is also acknowledged. The fact that Tonali's suspension is not immediate is down to his cooperation and self-reporting. The panel note an appropriate sanction involves an immediate sporting sanction within the range of 0 to 6 months. The fact that Tonali played in 3 of the 4 fixtures he had placed bets on is a serious aggravating factor, and the size of the bets placed by Tonali is an aggravating factor. Tonali has clearly initiated the FA investigation himself, fully cooperated with the FA thereafter. This approach, in absence of any other evidence, in conjunction with the other mitigating factors presented, represents a unique set of circumstances. In the end, the panel concluded that mitigating factors, self-reporting, gambling, addiction, etc., outweighed aggravating factors, betting on Newcastle and the size of the bets, etc., resulting in a suspended 2-month ban. Quote, the commission concluded that this is a case where there are clear and compelling reasons to suspend the entirety of the 2-month sporting sanction suspension that we've imposed above and thus enable Tonali to undertake football activity when the Italian FA sanction allows him to. Then Newcastle made a 3-paragraph statement as well. So that's the news on Sandro Tonali this morning. Basically it's a suspended sentence in the Premier League. So there's that. Also on the board quickly, trying to see what else is on the board. Tomorrow we will go over broadcast assignments and reffing assignments. Yes, Del, you just made it to the end of the show. So that is what we're looking at with Sandro Tonali. Also on the board from Doug Robertson of the AJC, Shande Silva, but no Derek Williams or Jamal in training today with Atlanta United as they get ready for the matchup with Minnesota United coming up tomorrow. So tomorrow on the show, it will be Jason at 10 o'clock, and hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals at 9:30. And then once again, getting you ready for semifinal Friday on the network. And so semifinal Thursday, once again, soccer's in session coming up in about 40 minutes. Take a tour with a bunch of coaches going all around the state and getting you ready for semifinal Thursday. We will be at West Forsyth. North Gwinnett, West Forsyth, girls, kick off a little after 7. Pre-game show with me and Maddie at 6:45. Jason will have the call. Tomorrow, we'll have the show as normal, 9:05 to 11-ish. Whenever. Soccer's in session, semifinal Friday. Then we will have two matches at once. We will have the semifinal boys, North Atlanta at River Ridge, and we will have the twos playing NYCFC. Maddie and I will be at River Ridge. Jason will be with the twos in NYCFC 2. When we have the broadcast plan figured out for that, we'll let you know. But set your notifications and all of your reminders and all that kind of stuff. But we will be in 2 places at once. It will be a multi-device experience for you tomorrow night with semifinal Friday in the GHSA playoffs, Atlanta United 2 and NYCFC 2 on the network as well. And like I said, so when we figure out how that's going to lay out, we will let you know how that is going to lay out all across the network. It's going to be a big day in our history and a fun day in our history. So we'll let you know when we know about all that kind of stuff. So like I said, soccer's in session. Kaler is the last Thursday in every month. Unless there's like breaking news or something, Del, the USL show is the last Thursday of every month. So we have them on once a month, the last Thursday, unless there's breaking news or something, when I call Kaler on short notice and he has to try and find a place to hide. And so that's traditionally, yeah, we did, Del, and we talked about how it was stupid and brought the video up. And the link in the Twitch pitch is the link to the video. And just literally make sure that he's charged to the fullest extent of the law. Make sure that he's not on a touchline ever again. Make sure he's not in a building ever again. And I hope that the young man is not afraid of being a linesman and can be an example. Yes, it is stupidity down here without question. But I'm hoping that the young man can be an example for others about an appreciation for the game and a love and respect for the game, instead of an idiot coach that wants to cold cock you with a right hand. Abby, thanks again, and I'm glad that we were able to be here this morning to help everybody through what's going on in their days. So, once again, big day. Soccer's in session coming up at noon, and semifinal Thursday, 6:45 across the network tomorrow. Morning show, in session live, semifinal Friday at noon. 2 places at once tomorrow night. The 2's in NYCFC 2 from the fraction. Maddie and I will have North Atlanta and River Ridge boys. So that's where we are. Oh, what to watch and where to watch it. I knew I forgot something. Hang on just a second. All right. So what to watch, where to watch it, and I'll try to get us out of here in short order. Okay. Soccer on TV. And let's see. So soccer on TV, where to watch, what to watch, where to watch it. And let's ensure that everything clicks over. All right. Today, Europa League, 3 o'clock, 2 to NA. Roma and Bayer Leverkusen. The play-in, Clausura, 8:30 and 11. Pachuca and Tigres. Necaxa and Querétaro is at 11. Unimas, simulcasting Europa League. Paramount Plus has both Europa League matches at 3. Marseille, Atalanta, Roma, and Leverkusen. And Europa Conference League matches. Villa, Olympiacos, Fiorentina, and Club Brugge. Chelsea and Spurs are at 2:30 on Peacock. VIX has your simulcast of the Europa League. That's going to do it. Now we'll be back once again, top of the hour. Let you know what's going on across the high schools. Rapid fire coaches for semifinal Thursday here with the GHSA. Thanks to everybody who is hanging out with us back in about 40 minutes. For Niko, for you, for me, and for Clay Livingston, the head coach at Towns County, who brought us a little bit of in-session live to kick things off at 9 o'clock. He had to come in early because of his class. You could hear him at the weight room behind him. So great to catch up with Clay. Great to catch up with all y'all. We'll be back at it again 37 minutes from now. We'll talk high schools. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platiel since it's the end of the show. That means we get to do this. See you in a bit.